What is going on? Welcome to the Table Podcast with your girl, Briana Pierrette. I'm excited that you are here and I want to jump right into this conversation because I think it's so incredibly important. Okay? If you did not see last week's episode, we talked about how relationships begin with you. I highly suggest you go back and watch that if you did not. But if you did, you're right on track. Let's do this, right? In last week's episode, we really kind of talk about how every single relationship reflects who you are. Every single relationship begins with you. Everything that someone brings to the table, some way, somehow, is on your table as well. Or it's exactly what you need on your table, either to grow or to kind of build together, et cetera, right? So if that's the case, the one thing that I truly feel is the biggest issues with connections that we have today isn't necessarily just communication or money problems or anything like that. It's this need to be perfect. Like everyone is in competition about who is better, to the point where now the conversation is, what do you bring to the table? And again, we ask that question in a way to say, well, I'm interviewing you. What are the good things about you that makes you worthy of my time? Which I'm not so against. I'm not against knowing what someone brings to the table in a positive way that is going to add value to your life. However, no matter what, whether you like it or not, every person that walks into your life is adding value because they are reflecting back to you something within your life that you need to see, you need to improve, or that you really want to kind of grow with and feel good about. So everyone adds value. What kind of value you're looking for is a whole different thing, right? So preference is different from value, if that makes sense. Here's the value I prefer. I prefer someone that is going to add to my happiness and add to my joy. And even that is subjective because adding to your happiness is also pointing out the parts of you that are unhappy, which usually is mirrored from another person, so that you can fix it, change it, do something with it to change, right? So the biggest issue that I'm seeing is that everyone is striving to be the perfect candidate, right, for a relationship. And I think that because everything is so surface level, how much money do you make? How, good looking are you? How much do other people want you, right? It's all a popularity contest based off of things that don't matter as much as they should. Everyone's striving for perfection. It's not allowing us to actually connect. It's like we are judging every single book by the cover. And I know that since we were all children, we heard the whole saying, do not judge a book by its cover. I personally believe that, yeah, there are some covers you can judge a book by. You can decide to look at a cover and know instantly you don't want to read that book. I've been to the library. That's like one of my favorite places, okay, is the library. Any library that has a bunch of books. Not any library. There's some libraries I'm like, I'm never walking in here again. But you get my drift, right? Libraries are a beautiful place for you to literally explore the minds of authors and what's going on and learn and all that stuff. And so when you walk into a library, there are certain books, there's certain rows you're just not going to. For example, when I go to the library, I'm never looking at the horror stories and the thrillers. I don't care for that. I really don't care for that. I do not watch horror movies, so I do not care for horror books. It's just not interesting to me. I know that I'm not interested in that genre. Even if there's a book there that could possibly be interesting to me, I'm most likely not even going to enter that row because of my preference of what I'd rather read. Doesn't mean that the books or that horror books don't add value. They do add value. And watching a horror movie, even though I don't like it, even though it scared me, even though I didn't enjoy it as a child, it did add value to me. It helped me to gauge who I am and what I believe. It helped me to understand how I feel about movies and how real or not real they are. It helped me to even understand my own personal power and how a lot of the things that I was seeing in these horror movies, I was actually seeing in my life. And as someone who has psychic abilities and has been able to see entities, I'm like, this ain't just a movie, okay? So there's a lot of stuff that adds value, but the idea that we have to be perfect devalues us even more because we're not operating as our true self. We walk into this world different for a reason. We walk into this world different for a reason. Every single one of us have a purpose, a mission, and a unique blueprint to ourselves. And yet, society makes us feel like the way for you to be valuable and the way for you to be important in this world is to show up a very specific way. There's a specific way to learn, a specific way to work, a specific way to be, a specific way to present yourself, a specific way to dress. And it's all in the eyes of the beholder, right? And then we all pretend like we all agree with everything. And that's the biggest issue. We're not connecting. Beyond the surface, we're just not connecting. The truth is, in a genre full of books where I'm looking at the cover, for me to really know if I want to read it or not, I kind of have to read the title, look at the author, maybe open the book. Sometimes I look inside the book to kind of see, okay, how big or small are the print? How many pages am I reading? Am I on a time crunch? Am I not? Is this the actual thing that I'm looking for, right? And the reality is whenever I go to a library to read a book, I also take into consideration that no matter how good the book is, because I like a book that's going to keep me engaged, the reality is on a biological level, right? It's like literally proven in science. Maybe it's not bio, but books, when you are reading them, it deactivates the brain, right? It's actually like a meditative state. So I already know that reading books are naturally technically boring. That's why most people don't like to read. It is something that enhances the mind and helps you focus on concentration. So I walk into a library getting a big book, small book, whatever the case is, knowing that I may be bored, even if I'm interested in the topic, even if the cover of the book looks amazing, even if I got a recommendation for how amazing the book is. I also know that the possibility of me getting bored or the possibility of me wanting to watch a movie over reading a book is absolutely possible. And I'm open to that. And I check out the book with this energy and this knowing that, A, nothing about this is going to be perfect. However, I'm willing to try to see if I connect with the book. And I think what we do is we're constantly getting into relationships or looking around for the perfect candidates, not taking into accountability that no matter how perfect a person shows up, no matter how amazing somebody shows up, there's going to be problems. There's going to be imperfections. And I think we don't take a deeper enough look at the imperfections, and maybe not even a deeper enough look, but I think there's the need to normalize imperfections. There's the need to be okay with the fact that growth is a real thing and change can actually happen. Now, I'm not saying that this is meant for you to lower your standards, but I'm saying that this is meant for us to take into account that when we are asking, what do you bring to the table? We should be asking that question, thinking about everything, not just the positives, not just what seems to benefit us. Because even in a relationship that is extremely mutually beneficial, you still are going to have to work through some major differences. You're going to have to work through some things that, isn't so easy to work through. And both parties have to be interested in working through them. And I think that we live in a world where people just aren't interested in actually working through them. Now, there are people that you kind of automatically know. It is a soul knowing, it is an intuitive understanding that your connection with them just isn't for you. I'm not talking about that. You should always listen to your intuition, you should always listen to yourself. What I'm really talking about isn't even about other people, it's about ourselves. The reality is that in order for us to connect with our right people, with our soul tribe, with the people that truly are, meant to be in our lives, that we're truly made to attract, we have to be our authentic self. And in order for us to be our authentic self, we have to look at the parts of us that we love and the parts of us that we don't in order for us to show up. The parts of us that society deems as imperfect is probably the most enticing part of you, and you're holding it back just so that you can be a good enough candidate. And this is where I think connections get stifled. We are striving to be perfect, but perfect hardly exists. And if it exists to the person you're speaking to. What's perfect to me isn't going to be perfect to you. We could hang up a picture and I could look at it and be like, ooh, perfect. I love where it is. It's the perfect size. It's everything that I'm looking for. And you could be like, I don't really like it. I don't think it works. It is all opinion. It is all up to interpretation. And perfect is something that there is no measurable goal that we can like grasp. So we're constantly working to be perfect, working to be the perfect wives, working to be the perfect husbands, working to be the perfect candidates, right? No matter what, you're going to look at yourself and you're going to look at your insecurities and automatically start putting yourself down because you are not perfect. There's always going to be someone with an opinion. One person's going to look at you and think that you are the perfect candidate, and someone else is going to look at you and think that you lack so much. And it's like this thing where we're trying to run away from our truth, which is that we're just ourselves. And being ourselves mean that we are not meant to be perfect. We're not meant to all be the same. We're not all meant to know each other and to connect. We affect the collective, but there's people in the world you'll never meet. You'll never meet, and they'll never meet you, and that's okay. Some of the most famous people in the world, I don't know them. And there is an entire group, an entire fan club of people that love them, and they will never cross my path, or if they do, I won't notice. And you want to know why? Because that's life. That's how it is. That's how it's meant to be. But we're all trying to be such a specific version of ourselves in order for us to be accepted. And I think that's where connections really do fall apart. We enter into relationships as our best selves. And that's cool and all. You put your best foot forward. We all learn to make a good first impression. But then we get so shook, so shocked, so surprised when, as we continue, you start learning more about the person and the flaws start coming out. And now this is where you have to make your real decision on whether or not you want to be with this person. We do this thing where we fall in love and we fall for one another under like false pretenses, without seeing the flaws of one another, without really seeing how angry you could get. Everyone is hiding. Everyone is keeping their truth to themselves and kind of like not wanting anyone to see their imperfections and their flaws, which is causing us to all feel lack and, like a lack of self-worth. Everyone is trying to prove themselves. Everyone is trying to show up a certain kind of way. So now you're never going to be enough because unless you show up a certain way, unless your purpose is tied to what you're doing, you're just going to feel like you're not enough. And that's the biggest issue with connections. We're constantly looking for the big bang. We're looking for the most amazing situation. We're looking for people that, only showcase the best of the best without realizing that the best with the best also comes with flaws and heartache and issues and problems that you're also going to have to deal with. And life just becomes so much easier and relationships become so much easier when we're all genuinely okay with dealing with our insecurities, with not hiding and being secret about our insecurities and our issues. And again, that doesn't mean that you need to tell everyone your worst parts of you, or that everyone you meet, you have to say, well, here's all my issues out on the table. That's not what I'm saying. There's a way to, have that genuine conversation, but it just starts with yourself. It's not about, having to air it all out. It's actually about accepting yourself, knowing yourself. The more you know yourself, the more authentic you are with yourself, the easier it is to connect with people. On an energetic level, you just start to call in certain energies. And the more you know yourself, the people you connect with, you'll actually start to understand who they're meant to be in your life, what they're teaching you. If you don't know who you are, if you can't admit to yourself some of the worst things about you that you need to grow from, then you're always going to misinterpret someone's purpose in your life. You're going to see them and you're going to think or assume that it's only supposed to be roses and butterflies with this person, when in reality, you're meant to work through some really tough stuff so that you can heal your own self. Like I've said in previous episodes and videos, it's all, and like I mean all, a reflection of you, an extension of you. Everyone you're connecting with, everyone you're in a relationship is an extension of you. So if you are looking at things from the perspective of, I need to show up perfect, you get to, but then the relationship, no matter what, one way or another, is going to reflect back to you what you need to work on and all the things that you are hiding. The truth is there are no secrets in connections, even when we think they are. No matter what, you're going to be exposed, whether it is energetically communicating it, whatever the case may be. A lot of times we think we're hiding so well, but we're not. Because whatever it is that we're hiding, it comes out in the relationship. It comes out in the connection. If you are somebody that really doesn't find yourself to be handsome or beautiful, you're going to get people in your life that kind of poke at that insecurity. Ooh, got choked up there. Okay? They're gonna poke at that insecurity. So while you think you're hiding it because you looking fly, you walking like you're confident, you're still gonna attract people that treat you like you're less than. That looks like people that cheat on you. They show up, they wined and they dined you, or they treated you like you were a king, a queen, whatever the case is. And then they go and cheat on you, making you feel like you are a third party, like you don't matter, like you are someone who doesn't, have the worth that you deserve, the respect that you deserve. You're not worthy of it. You start to feel all of these things and you think to yourself, oh my goodness, it's them. They're a cheater. And yeah, maybe they are. Maybe that's exactly who they are. And also, it's reflecting back to you the insecurities that you're hiding from yourself. It's an extension. We wonder, why do people hurt us? Because we're hurt. Because we're harboring that hurt. We're protecting it. I say it all the time. Anything you keep a secret, it's you protecting it. Right? That's what secrets really are. I'm going to protect this thing by not telling anybody, by not letting anybody in, but the energy always shows up. And our biggest fear is the fear of judgment, right? So we sit in shame and guilt. We don't want others to judge us. So we keep these secrets. We keep our imperfections and our insecurities and the parts of us that make us different a secret. But as much as you're so afraid of other people judging you, it's you. You're judging you. And since you're judging you, you're not showing up authentic. Since you're not showing up authentic, you can't attract authentic relationships. And when you do, because I'm not saying it's impossible to attract it, but when you do attract authentic relationships, the kind of relationship you want in your life, there are some big things you'll have to work through. That's where you experience yourself. You're getting all the things you want, and you're kind of in this place of feeling like you're lacking it. This is where you start to fight it. This is where you start to sabotage things. This is where you start to feel like you're not worthy of the things that you're receiving. And honestly, it keeps us in this place of feeling like we're in lack, not taking accountability for the parts of you that are not that great, but boasting the parts of you that are, just to prove your worth. It doesn't work. Because the beautiful thing about human beings is that we're all a balance. No one is all good and no one is all bad, and that's all subjective. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has multiple sides to them, multiple dimensions. And the beautiful thing about that is that we want to have multiple dimensions. We don't want to all be the same. That doesn't work. If we were all the same, a lot of the inventions and a lot of the things that we are now connected to, our phones, the television, the way that we operate, jobs, money, et cetera, they wouldn't actually be built, because everyone would be doing the exact same thing, living the exact same way, and never expanding. Your connections get stifled by you trying to be perfect. Your soul tribe, the people that are meant for you, the ones that truly are supposed to be in your life, they can find you when you are yourself. Don't you realize when you just out here not looking for nobody, not checking for nobody, that's when you suddenly meet someone? All of a sudden you're connecting with people you didn't expect to connect with? That's not for no reason. That is not for no reason. That's because you're in your most authentic element. And now you connect. The reality is that you and your imperfections are worthy. But when you try to exclude the things that make you imperfect, your insecurities, things of that sort, you're really excluding such a big part of you. A part of you that you deserve to take a look at, to nurture, to love, and to take care of. Whether it be through healing, whether it be through, pushing it forward. And a lot of times, the parts of you that are hurting, the parts of you that aren't the greatest, the parts of you that you don't like, those are literally the parts of you that expand you. They're the parts of you that give you the idea. I say it all the time, lack is the first step to abundance. Whatever it is that you're lacking, it usually is helping you to gain whatever it is that you want. So when you're looking at yourself and you're trying to hide that part, you're sitting in shame. And that shame is doing one thing. It's keeping you in the loop of having to learn yourself and having to accept yourself through others. And that looks not like others accepting you, but in others rejecting you and hurting you. Then you go on to believe that your connections suck. You continue to believe you're not worthy of them, but that's not true. Your connections are trying to show you that you should love all of you. That what you're looking for in other people, you're just begging for it from your own self. Relationships really do begin with you. And if they begin with you, then that means it begins with all of you, not just the parts of you that you like or the parts of you that you think others will like. Because a lot of people are living life for others. I had countless clients, and almost every client that comes in, they're doing something for the liking of others. And I'm not saying that you can't do stuff for others, because I think that's important too. There's a lot of things that I do that I don't necessarily want to do, but I do it because I want to make somebody happy, and that's okay. But I'm saying your livelihood, who you are, how you operate, your personality, what you think is right and wrong, doing those things, believing those things, operating in a certain way for the likings of others, for the opinions of others, for the appraisal? What? More like the validation of others, right? When you're doing it for that, you're not walking in your authentic truth. So now every relationship is going to come in and it's going to show you how you're not being authentic. And of course, it's going to show you the beautiful parts too. But this is something that we need to start normalizing. We need to normalize imperfections. We need to normalize the idea that we all come with insecurities. And not just that no one's perfect, but like literally nobody is perfect, right? Not just a thing we say whenever we have a little moment, a little mistake. I'm talking about like walking into every relationship and knowing that there is beautiful things about it and not so beautiful things about it, and making the not so beautiful things a normal thing to talk about, a normal thing to converse about. Yeah, here are all of my accolades. Here's what makes me absolutely fantastic and amazing. Also, here are some things that I struggle with. Here are some things that are really going on in my life. Yeah, I have a great job, but my spending habits are not the best and I'm learning. And then the other part of that is not being so incredibly judgmental. Being in a place where compassion can be put forth, because none of us are perfect. Anything that you are judging literally reflects back to you. You're judging it because of your own self, because of your own beliefs, because someone judged you when you were once in a position like that. I'm telling you, there's not a single situation that somebody else has done that you didn't like that I can't reflect back to what you do in your own life. We can always see the issue and the imperfections in others, but we really can't see it in ourselves because we're hiding our true selves. And when we hide our true selves, our true connections suffer, they stifle. They can't show up the way that we need to. And this is something that I think is talked about sometimes, but not enough. Yes, there's the be your authentic self, but we've walked into the era of being your best self. And even me as a coach, I have told everybody, like, I want you to be your best self. Let's be your best self. Come on, you deserve to be your best self. But over the years, I've really figured out that being your best self isn't about being perfect. It isn't about being, the greatest. It isn't about thinking positively. Being your best self is about truly being yourself, being your most authentic self, and then deciding for yourself what you want to keep and what you want to change and grow from. Because that is what makes us human, is growing and learning. You are meant to connect with others as yourself. Not the self that mom and dad told you to be, not the self that society convinced you needed to be, and not the self that you keep telling yourself you're supposed to be in order for you to be liked, but you. And honestly, if I were to sit here and ask you, who are you? Could you tell me? Could you tell me who you actually are without boasting about what you did or what you've done? Could you tell me who you are as a person without the stuff, without the career, without the accolades? Do you know who you are? Or is it wrapped up in what you do? Because those two things are very, very, very different. You're not a human doing, you are a human being. And so, who are you being? Who are you showing up as every single day? And what parts of you are you ashamed of and embarrassed of and refuse to talk about, refuse to connect through? Because truly, connections thrive based off of how well you can overcome the differences and how much you're willing to work together. There are people that are having relationships where one person really doesn't mind overcoming the differences and really doesn't mind having compassion, and the other person has no interest in doing it. That's not a connection. That doesn't work. But when two people understand their own insecurities, understand their own imperfections, understand that they have growth to do regardless of what they've accomplished or didn't accomplish, that they can grow and change at any point in time, and both parties actively want the connection, you'll have a beautiful connection. You just have to work through some things. And I'm telling you, if you've known me for some time, then you know that I have a very close relationship with my sister. If you don't, I'm gonna tell you about it. Me and my older sister are extremely close today. However, that didn't start off that way. As a kid, she couldn't stand me. And growing up, we really did not have a close relationship. We fought a lot, and I mean like physically fist fighting. There was a lot of trauma between the two of us. And we got to a place where we went multiple months not speaking to one another. Then there was one time where we went a year not speaking to one another, and we both gave up. We both decided we're just not going to have a relationship, and that's okay. I'll see you around, it's going to be fine, and it's okay. And we spent a year living in the same house, not speaking to one another. We see each other, the most we have is respect to say hello, and that's about it. And that's if we needed to say hello. And it was a difficult time, but it was also something where I just let go, and she just let go. And we both just stopped trying to be close. We stopped trying to be sisters. She stopped having an expectation of how I needed to show up. I stopped having an expectation of how she needed to show up. We both just decided that she's her and I'm me, and that's that. And we let go of each other. But truthfully, the relationship didn't actually shift and change until I decided to be so authentic and real with her. Before that part happened, before we stopped talking to each other, we started to connect. But before we could even start to connect, we couldn't understand each other. She was not feeling it with me. I was chasing her a lot. However, as an older sister, she was Xing me out. She didn't trust me. She had her reasons. I felt like, there was a lot of things that I didn't like and had to endure. We both had a lot of headbutting. And one day we sat down and we had a real conversation about what's going on. We had to talk about our differences, and it wasn't easy. We didn't have adults teaching us how to do this. We just had to kind of have really tough conversations. And at first they started in fights, and then through time, they got easier to have. But one day I just decided to stop being the little sister that wants her big sister's attention and to be my authentic self. And for me, I was so afraid of her judgment that I didn't want to tell her what's really going on with me. So I would lie to her about certain things. If she's asking me who I was with and tell her, instead of telling her that I was with a guy, I'd be like, oh yeah, I was with my friend or I was working, right? Because I was just not interested in hearing the judgments. That didn't mean that it was okay to lie to her, but I did. And then I just decided, you know what, fuck it. I'm tired of trying to show up perfectly. I'm tired of trying to show up exactly how she wants me to show up or how I think and assumed that she wanted me to show up. And one day I walked into her room and I said, all right, let me tell you what's going on. And I straight up told her. I told her who I was dealing with. I told her what I'd been doing. I told her the type of person I am. I told her that I hated being called a bitch because at the time she was calling me bitch all the time. We got so real and I got so authentic and I just stopped trying to be what I thought a little sister should be. I stopped trying to be what I thought she needed me to be, and I just started being myself. And I didn't walk in there telling her all the great things that was going on with me, because that didn't work. I walked in there telling her the things that I believed she would judge, the parts of me that today I'm no longer like anymore, but I really did believe that she would judge them. And interestingly enough, she didn't. She was more intrigued. She was like, really? You're messing with who? Him? How is it? And the reaction and response I got was completely different. From there, from that truth, from me showing up authentically, we could start working on our relationship. And we had our ups and downs. It wasn't perfect from there. Being that real and that authentic sometimes backfired. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but I wanted the connection and she wanted the connection. And so we worked on it and worked on it and worked on it until we got to a peak where it's just like, it's not going to happen. It can't happen. And we let each other go completely. And in letting each other go completely, I was able to not just look at her for her faults, but I was able to look at myself, my own imperfections, and understand where I went wrong, as well as understand where she went wrong. Neither of us was perfect in the situation. And I worked on myself over the course of a year. Then I started going to church, and God brought us together because we decided to go to the same church at the same time, which allowed us to kind of heal with each other. We're talking about healing, and we naturally both wanted to heal with each other. But the biggest part of that was we wanted to understand each other. We actually wanted to connect. So we stopped trying to be perfect in that. We stopped trying to show up as two sisters, my bigger sister and little sister, but we started showing up as two people. She started respecting me as a person. I started respecting her as a person. I started to understand where she was coming from. I decided that the things that I was judging and the things that I thought wasn't fair about her, I didn't like about her, I decided that I was going to accept it and be okay with it and connect to her, get to know her, understand her, and not just judge her, and to actually talk through the difficult things. And she decided the same thing. And from then, we couldn't separate. We're the closest we've ever been. Until this day, we still have to have the hard conversations. But the connection, the bond is unbreakable, because the things that do break us apart, the things that do keep us disconnected from one another, it's our differences. It's the idea that we don't want to understand each other. We don't want to open compromise and come together. We want what we want, and we want it in a certain way. And when we all live in a world where we're hiding our truths and we only want what we want, we then show up the way that we think everyone's going to accept. And now we're not ourselves. So now we're building bonds and having connections that just aren't real, aren't authentic. They're not as fulfilling. And we're keeping ourselves in the loop of dealing with people that just don't fulfill us, but still searching for connection. It starts with you. And for it to really last, for it to really be beautiful, it starts with authenticity. You can't find authenticity in perfection until you define perfection as authenticity. And authenticity is not about the beautiful things we bring to the table. It's about everything we bring to the table. Because when I think about the table and I ask everyone to bring something, when I think about all my friends coming over for a potluck dinner, I know that not everything is going to taste the way that I might like it to taste. Someone could bring over the macaroni and everyone loves it but me, because I think it needs a little more salt. Or I think it should have had a little more double in that bad boy, right? That's possible. But we do this thing where we don't want to face that. We don't want to face that the idea of what we could bring could be both good and bad, could be both solid and not solid, could be judged positively and negatively. And since we don't want to admit that and see that, we judge ourselves. And then we exclude that part of ourselves. And then we end up in situations where we show up one way, and then later we start to show our truths. And even then we're walking on eggshells. Perfection stifles connection. Strive for connection. And when you really connect to someone, you connect with all of you. Here is all of me. Here's the truth of who I am. Here's what's happening. Hey, look, in my life, I'm going through some things. That's it. This is where I was. This is where I am. This is where I want to be. Here are my goals, but truthfully, this is where I'm struggling. This is where I'm suffering a little bit, right? Being able to have those real conversations is relieving. It's beautiful. And it really does bring a level of just understanding with one another. And we're missing that in these connections. Everyone is in competition with one another, that we're not realizing that we just need a little bit more compassion, a little bit more understanding, and a little bit more love towards ourselves, less judgment towards ourselves. And I promise you, you start giving yourself that, you'll get it right back. Your connections will start to want to understand you too, because no matter what, it has to mirror you. Somebody that has judged you forever, you can really hold on to that and decide not to show up as your authentic self, or you can start showing up as your authentic self while knowing, there's some things about me that I don't like, but it is me and I am working on it. I'm doing everything I can to work on it. So now that you're being that real with yourself and you're seeing the parts of you that aren't the best, here comes God throwing connections in your way that are going to help you work on it. Not in the way that is going to shake you and wake you up to the fact that you're this horrible person because that's how you're judging yourself, but people who have compassion and can relate and want to help you, want to connect with you. This is connection. But you trying to be perfect is moving away the connections, because it starts with you. And if you aren't being you, who are you being? And more importantly, who are you attracting? Because if you're not attracting what's truly for you, then that means you're only ever going to attract those people that are helping you find you. That's not always going to be a comfortable situation. A lot of times, those are the people that hurt you, all because they're trying to reflect back to you how you're hurting yourself. I know it's a little harsh, but it's true. And trust me, I've had my fair share of connections with people where they're just reflecting back to me how I'm hurting myself. And it is now in my most authentic energy and still working through things that I understand that a lot of what I was attracting in the past isn't what I wanted. A lot of the things I claimed to have want wasn't my actual truth. I was just trying to be as perfect as possible. And even then, that didn't work out. Perfection stifles connection. You want real connections, you want genuine bonds, you want to be in authentic relationships that grow you, then you have to understand what you bring to the table. And I'm not just talking about the beautiful things. I'm talking about the not so beautiful things that you can own, that you can love, that you can have compassion for, and you can actively decide to change and work on it while being real with those who come into your life. This right here is key. But we're going to leave it right there. I really hope that this gets you to think through some things. I really hope that you're able to look at this podcast episode and think to yourself, well, who am I? How am I showing up, and how authentic is that? What do I bring to the table that is both fantastic and amazing and not? What accolades and parts of me am I really putting forth that isn't even the true parts of me that I care for people to know and meet? Are you showing everyone that you're a scholar when in reality, you have this craving to be a creator? How are you showing up that is actually true to you? And more importantly, how are you judging yourself when you show up in certain ways? Do you like you? Because if you don't, you're going to attract people who don't like you too. These are the things I want you to think about. And then I want you to decide to accept yourself and to hold yourself accountable for the parts of yourself that doesn't treat you the best. Because if you have partners and people in your life that aren't treating you the best, there's a part of you that is giving them permission to do that. And the only reason why we give permission for things to be done to us is because we're doing it to ourselves too. Until next time, you know that I'm sending you so much love. Thank you so much for being here. If you're not subscribed, do that. But if you are, I am so grateful. Can't wait for next week, because we are going to get into some things. Okay? So I'll see you then.